All right, so I think I'm gonna start with the scariest part first, which is drilling a hole in the side of this tank for the low level sensor. It's gotta be 1.5 inches from the bottom of the tank, and I'm going to use a 4th step bit, so we'll see what size we need. I'm gonna try it off camera and I'll let you guys know. All right, so we got this drilled in there with the 11/16, which is the second to last bit on this 1/2 inch. Throwing some E6000 on it just to make sure we get a proper seal. And we'll just set this guy in here like so. And we'll give that a few minutes to dry before we throw this sensor in there. All right, so I've just taped the end of these 2 wires, removed the cap, and I think I can just feed them in like this and then position them away that I can just pull right out the side. And then we'll throw on the washer and nut on the... All right, so I've got the washer and the nut tightened on with the grommet right down. If it's sticking up a little bit whenever you're pulling this out, it does help with 2 people, one to hold the grommet and one to pull this. But once you put this nut on there, it's gonna create a seal right here. So don't worry if your grommet's sticking out a little bit. But that's all for the tank for now. Let's go ahead and move on to this throttle body and run the line. All right, so one thing I did notice, we're gonna hook up the nozzle and this boost tap into our ring, but some kits, they do come with a 90-degree fitting instead of the straight through like it is on the Titan video. So we'll go ahead and do that, but that's one thing to note. And just to reference what goes in here, so we're gonna have our nozzle, which is right here, and we're gonna use thread sealant only on these tapered edges, so the one with the nozzle. And then on the other side, we're just gonna have this little fitting right here to tap into. So let me put that together. All right, so I've got our nozzle connector together. Again, only put that E6000 or your thread sealer on this tapered edge for the nozzle. Tighten it down. I'm not sure the direction matters, but I did it with the nozzle with these facing down as it showed on the Snow website. And then yeah, just cranked them down with a 12 wrench. All right, so to throw on our boost tap and our nozzle to here, we're gonna have the grommet facing down, and then this hole closest to me is going to be our spray, and then this is going to be our boost tap right there. So let me put those together. All right, so actually before I throw this on, I'm gonna go ahead and put these connections on this one-way check valve. It doesn't matter which side you do, the flow will be accordingly. So we'll then connect these 2 with a meth line and secure these nuts down. All right, so we've got these nuts off of these, and we're just gonna connect this on like so, and then we'll tighten these down. And then this is gonna have our arrow pointing towards our tank, so away from this. So I got mixed up there, but obviously all the arrows are going to be pointing in the direction of flow, so you're going to want every arrow pointing away from the tank and towards your throttle body. Throw that on, and then I'll tighten these down and we'll be ready to throw in the car. All right, so this throttle body adapter, the first thing we're going to do is remove the charge pipe bolts. So we just have these 2 right here. I'll go ahead and knock those out. All right, so we have 3 throttle body bolts we're going to have to remove. Here's one, there's the other, and then the other one is down here at the bottom. You can see that in the middle of the screen. They're 10 mil, so let's get those. One thing to note real quick, I did pull these little tabs. You just pull them out like this, and it'll pop off these little grommets right here. And this, I could move it out of the way enough to get my socket onto that bolt. If I have to do anything for the bottom one, tricky, I'll let you guys know. All right, so this bottom one, I can only get a few clicks, but I was able to reach just a standard socket in here from the side, and then eventually wiggle it loose. So that should be the throttle body off, and then we'll put the cap. One thing of caution whenever you're pulling this throttle body off, it came off pretty easy, but there is this little rubber gasket in there. It just fits in this little, recess. So when you're pulling it off, make sure to keep an eye out for that, because it came about halfway off and then halfway still attached. But yep. All right, so one thing I did do was turn this to face just like this instead of having it this way, because it was hitting the alternator. So we'll just run it like this. Again, let's pull this back and we're gonna have the Titan logo facing us, and just like that. And then we will throw the. All right, so to throw these in, I have one nut that's gonna stay on there, and then I've secured another one on, and just tighten these so that whenever I tighten this top one, the whole thing will spin. So I've already got this one good. Just needs to tighten up. Yeah, this will just feed in just like this, and then at least get it started. We'll just turn this, and you can see both are turning and both are tightening up. Sometimes they'll break a little loose if they're not tight enough, excuse the noise. Just finger tighten them on like that, and then you can keep pushing these in there. So let me get that one done. I gotta get this bottom one, and then I'll show you. All right, so I've gotten these tightened down and then the charge pipe back on. So that should be good for this for now. Have our line feeding up through here. Next, we're gonna hit the pump and the tank on the bracket. We'll later remove a bunch of this stuff just to get a little bit of extra space. And yeah, we'll be ready to wire it up. And also while we're here, we're gonna remove this drain right here. So it just really fits in. Just take that out. So this won't be able to fit with everything in there. So add it to your spare parts. All right, so I'm just test fitting the Titan bracket. It looks these two holes will be on the edge of the car. Then this one will be right where that screw hole is right there. We'll add one in, but those two holes, and then we'll need to add a screw into that one right there. All right, so if this is the front of the car and we're facing the back of it, this is gonna mount just like so, with these two holes near the passenger side wheel well. And then our pump is going to be placed on the back with our tank up front. And to mount our pump, we have this hardware. So we have little hex screws and bolts, and those will just go through here and line up just like that. Of course on the other side, but let me do that and I'll show you. All right, so I've got the pump mounted up here, and again, it's gonna be mounted upside down. So this will be hanging just like that. All right, so our pump or our tank rather, is gonna be facing right back here. On these, the middle holes will be empty. And to do that, we're gonna be using these with these big old washers, which will allow us to clear this. So let's put that in. All right, so we got the tank on, and just for reference, here's what we have. We have this bolt in there, and then my big washer and the nut. And I did put, they were supplied a little washer on here, and a washer on the tank side on the bottom. You can't really see, but where that metal on goes on metal. So yeah, I think that is pretty much good to go. Also, I put in our little nozzle. Let's just got it in, so ready to mount this up in the car. Right, so one last thing actually before we put this in there, sorry about that. We're gonna connect the inlet of the tank to our nozzle right here, and with this line, so this will just go in like this, and that way I'll probably turn this to face that way just so it's a nice easy one. And then we'll secure it with this. So this line will just fit on here like this, and then we will slide, this over the edge and tighten it down. So let me go ahead and turn this, and I'll reposition. All right, so I did turn this around, and then we have this running into our outlet, running into our inlet, and you can tell by these arrows right here. So this is in, this is out, and the tank will go to this, and then our pump outlet will be running to our throttle body adapter. So let's go ahead and throw this sucker in the car. All right, so we actually couldn't get the wipers off. I don't know what the hell's up, but they're stuck on that screw. So all we did was I had my buddy hold up this cowl area, and then I was able to finesse this thing in. So got it nice and secured. Dropped that top bolt, but hey, it'll be all right. So next thing, we're gonna wire up everything. Alright, so we have our solenoid here, so the outlet of the pump is going to go into the inlet of here, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw these connections on, and then we'll be able to mount the bracket and throw this in the car. Alright, so I just attached these nozzles and then this bracket to here, and there's a bunch of holes and it's kind of a mind fuck, but you would think that they'd go through here, but the hardware is too thick. So yeah, this is how it's going to mount up, and then this part will be sit on the car. So let's go do that. So before I throw this in there, I went ahead and connected a little piece of line. So this is going to connect from the outlet of our pump, a little nipple right there, hook this up right there, and then that will connect to this. So let's go ahead and put it in. All right, so we've got the solenoid mounted in there on the bracket. So now we just need to connect this inline to the outlet of the pump down here on that nozzle that I said before. So I'll go ahead and do that. And then I went ahead and connected what line I had left to the outlet of the solenoid before I put it in there. So that way we can just run this and it'll hit right into there, and then we'll get into the controller stuff. All right, so I've got that tightened up in there, and now we have this outlet line, which I'm just running, so if we can get in here, at the bottom right here. It's just coming up over underneath this right there. See that wiggling? And then I'm just feeding it, kind of tuck under here and around underneath this little sheet, and then I've zip tied it to this hose right here, and then the rest we'll feed this back to the charge pipe, and then cut it to size, and maybe zip tie it to here just to keep it nice and tight. All right, so I've gone ahead and connected the connections into the controller, and I just velcroed it to the side of the tank, and everything is good. I ran the line from the map sensor, which is right there. So this is with the line that comes in from here, and you just tap into the boost. So I've ran a line all the way back here where my flex fuel sensor was, and then out to this side over here, zip tied it, and then this plugs into that little metal nipple right there. You can see it on the throttle body. So this right here, that's where it's connected. All right, so wiring wise, the first thing we're gonna do, I've gone ahead and cut some of these. I'm gonna put the red pump to the red wire on the controller, and onto the red pump we're going to put a wire from the solenoid right here. So we'll connect these, and then we'll have a butt connector that connects both of these, to this red one. So let me go ahead and get that. So here's that one connection we were talking about, and then the rest we have just this white wire, which is going to go to our controller screen, and then we have the two wires from the low level sensor. One is ground, the other one, and everything else. So this black wire, the other wire from here, and the black wire from the controller are all ground. So I've just tapped right in there. These are both just two wires tapped into these little T-taps together. And I think that'll do it. So we're ready to route this LCD controller, and then the white wire from the to the controller to our volt source. To do that, we're gonna run underneath this firewall. So there's this little thing that sits right up here. I'll show you. Underneath the glove box. And then it just has these two little 90-degree things. You can push that out. And then to remove this side panel thing, first you want to pop off this, because it's just these little clips, but it sits behind it. So trap it in. And then you have, I already have my flex fuel wires, but you'll fill the little grommet and then just push a hole straight through there, and that's where we'll feed the wire. I've got this wire fed up through the same holes as a flex fuel kit. Those will already be empty if you have one, or cut out rather. And I just had my buddy grab them from the other side and then connect it in. Next, we're gonna feed that white wire from the controller down through this hole, and I'll grab it, and then we're going to tap into one of these fuses with this little 10 amp fuse tap. All right, so here's the wire right here. It's actually being fed through. So my buddy just tied a zip tie to it and then pulled it. Right, so I've gone ahead and connected this fuse tap to the white wire. And again, make sure that your added fuse is in line with this wire right there. And then our stock fuse will be plugged in right there. Our location that we're gonna plug in is that green 30 right by itself. If I can reach my arm around, so right there, that's the one we're gonna tap into. All right, so here's what I have. I just removed that green 30 from right back there and plugged it in, and then we'll just replace it. Just for a final look, we have that tapped in just like that. So that's in the very last slot on that middle row. All right, so just after I wired everything and then put all that back, I went ahead and started the car, and it looks like we are live. So if I press mode here, it has PSI, which I want, and I put the min down to 25.6 pounds and then the max at 29, just so it's not turning on or anything. It's not running it. I don't even make that much boost on the low end. So yeah, that'll be good. And then I'm probably gonna get some, sticky tape or something to just mount that a little cleaner, or maybe even, you know, stash it down there. I don't know. We'll figure it out where to put that. Only thing I didn't do yet is the low level sensor, because the wire's like 3 inches long and you're supposed to somehow route it in here. So yeah, well, let me figure that out. So as I mentioned, the only thing we don't have is the LED sensor. I'm gonna have to get some wires to run this inside, but just to test if it works. So the other line that comes out of your low level sensor, one's ground, doesn't matter. Other one comes into here. That's gonna connect to the white wire, and just use one cap connector. And then this will go to a 12-volt source. Eventually I'm gonna run a wire and I'll run it into that fuse tap. And then on that tap, I'm gonna have a switch so I can not have to mess with the PSIs every time I wanna turn it off and on. But right now I'm just gonna connect this to this battery terminal, this red wire, and make sure this turns on. And if it does, we're all good.